It all started with the profound anticipation of a package, a long-awaited biography of a legendary inventor that I'd pored over online reviews about. For weeks, I refreshed the tracking page, eagerly counting down the days until Mr. Amazon would finally deliver my piece of literary gold. But when the notification popped up saying delivered, excitement quickly turned into confusion. I flung open my front door and was greeted by nothing but the lonely welcome mat, unshaped by any delivery. Assuming it had been misdelivered, I scoured the neighborhood for potential answers. I knocked on my neighbors' doors and peeked behind bushes, all to no avail. It was as if my eagerly awaited package had vanished into thin air, hidden from my sight by some unseen force. Frustrated yet determined, I began to wonder if it was misplaced delivery or something more sinister, say, a covert operation by a band of porch pirates. The next missing item only added to my bewilderment, a replacement charger for my laptop. I had grudgingly placed the order after my old one mysteriously stopped working during a crucial deadline at work. If the universe was punishing me, it was doing so in the cruelest way imaginable. Days later, the notification pinged on my phone again, delivered, and once more, I was left with an empty porch and a storm of frustration clouding my mind. Finally, like a cherry atop a depressing Sunday, came the rubber chicken, an impulsive late night buy intended purely as a gag gift for a friend, but one that now seemed cursed. How could my delivery misfortune swindle me out of such sheer comedy? But as silly as the last item might seem, it became the final straw. This wasn't about what I was losing anymore. It was about the principle of it all. My dissatisfaction morphed into determination, and I set about solving this mystery. After all, surely a boring suburban neighborhood couldn't house a band of package snatchers. And yet, deep down, I knew I was living in an area governed by strict HOA rules. Rules that, it seemed, overlapped with the ridiculous and the unnecessary. That was when I first encountered Marge Thompson, the HOA president who appeared to take enthusiasm in governing our modest community with a zealous fervor that bordered on tyrannical. She rapped on my door one fateful afternoon, clipboard in hand, spewing warnings about the improper placement of garbage bins. "I see this is your first offense," she said coolly. "Consider this a warning. Next time, it'll be a fine." Underneath her pastel pink tracksuit and freshly sprayed helmet-like hair, I saw the fiendish glint of a woman enthralled by order and uniformity, much like an orchestra conductor, but in a world devoid of rhythm and passion. Still stewing over my growing list of missing items, I pieced together a newfound suspicion about her. The more I observed her during meetings, the more I was convinced that I was dealing with something beyond simple neighborhood rules. Marge was controlling, and her threats felt like the tactics of a would-be overlord. The offense of my garbage bins had plunged me deeper into the recesses of my imagination where I concocted all sorts of stories. With her clipboard, she wielded far more power than I had initially assumed. Each time her monotonous voice cut through the air at the HOA meetings, a million what-ifs whirled through my mind. What if Marge was somehow behind my package disappearances? A neighborhood benefactor by day, or a package thief by night? Determined to find the truth, I decided to install a security camera cleverly disguised as my doorbell, catching any footage of the crimes lurking in the shadows of suburbia. I narrowed my eyes with expectation, envisioning everything from errant cats to unruly teenagers. But I certainly didn't expect what unfolded. When the footage finally played back on my laptop, I couldn't believe my own eyes. There, surrounded by the dewy glow of morning sunlight, was Marge Thompson herself. Striding up to my porch with a disciplinary swagger, clipboard clutched under her arm, she snatched my package with an expert's flourish and briskly marched away. I froze the video frame after frame, convinced I was witnessing a suburban heist unfold in real time. At that moment, a boiling rage swelled within me, brewing into something fierce, as the realization washed over me. Marge wasn't just the self-appointed queen of beige conformity but the very thief I had been trying to expose. She was pilfering my packages under the guise of enforcing arbitrary rules while waging a war on clutter, never once considering the sheer absurdity of her actions. I felt empowered, anger simmering like a pot about to boil over. With this evidence, I would turn the tides. It would not be the end of my investigations but merely the beginning. It was time to confront my suburban oppressor. As I prepared for my showdown against Marge Thompson, I felt like a knight gearing up for battle against a greedy dragon. There was no way I would let this oppression go unanswered. With my proof displayed on a portable projector, I convinced myself that I would expose her misdeeds to our fellow HOA members. The day of the HOA meeting arrived, and as I stepped into the blandly decorated meeting room, a buzz of expectation filled the air. The usual beige attendee crowd fidgeted and whispered amongst themselves, the curtains bearing witness to centuries of drab discussions on lawn care and noise complaints. Marge, regal and imposing at the head table, had donned an expression of authoritative disdain. As her eagle-eyed gaze swept over the room, I could see the faintest flicker of weariness beneath her ever-cuffed sleeves. Regardless, she would not be prepared for what lay ahead. Clearing my throat dramatically, I took the floor. "Good evening, everyone. I have something to share with you." I connected my laptop to the projector, feeling all eyes drilling into me with intrigue mixed with confusion. The first frame of Marge herself, clipboard, pastel pink tracksuit, and all, stealing my precious rubber chicken, filled the screen. Gasps erupted, followed by a wave of murmuring. "Marge, why are my packages disappearing?" I asked, leveling my eyes at her. She stammered, grasping at her carefully scripted defense. I was simply enforcing HOA guidelines," she managed through her tightening throat, the veins on her neck appearing as if they might pop. "What guidelines permit stealing packages from your neighbors?" I retorted, my voice rising with confidence. "You can't create rules from thin air." It was the spark of a confrontation, and the suppressed giggles and chatter of the crowd began to grow louder, excitement fluttering amongst them like a gathering storm. Marge, realizing her grip on control was slipping, clutched tightly to her clipboard as she tried to regain composure. "Yes, we have new guidelines," she declared, puffing out her chest defiantly. "One that I just implemented to prevent cluttered porches and unnecessary deliveries." "Unnecessary deliveries?" I repeated, incredulity washing over the room like a wave. "You mean the ones you choose to remove and keep from your neighbors? That's theft." Faced forward, eyes pinned to the ground, I could see her bluster deflating under the pressure of the situation. Instead of submission, however, she leaned deeper into her delusions, a desperate attempt at defiance echoing through her flimsy bluster. "It's for the good of the community," she exclaimed, voice trembling even as the crowd broke into laughter. Little did she know that this was just the beginning. Feeling renewed vigor course through my veins, I realized I needed to find a way to channel this energy into a solution, something more effective than simply calling her out. My mind raced, and a deliciously outrageous idea began to take shape. If Marge could snatch packages under the premise of enforcing ridiculous rules, then perhaps it was time to fight back with some innovation of my own. It was time to deliver justice, quite literally, and I had one way to do it. I decided to build a drone delivery system that would sidestep her meddling completely. In my excitement to turn the tables, I could already feel my own ideas starting to cloud with sense of hope. I could bypass Marge Thompson's petty reign, taking back my packages and liberating the neighborhood from the oppressive grip of her HOA. I left the meeting resolved to create a drone delivery fleet, a fleet that would not only reclaim my goods but also symbolize a rebellion against her regimented life. I started researching everything I could about drone technology, pausing only briefly to suppress a laugh at how absurdly perfect this plan was. After endless hours of clicking through pages of specifications and regulations, I was ready to meet the challenge of acquiring my drones. I knew there was a company up and coming, specialized in designing delivery systems that could help neighbors evade the petty issues we'd long faced. With all the confidence I could muster, I picked up the phone and called them, ready to explain my purpose while cleverly hiding my thirst for revenge. "Hello, is this the Drone Solutions Company?" I began, feeling my heart race with the thrill of the hunt. "I need a fleet of delivery drones fit for my house. They have to be reliable, efficient, and capable of circumventing certain obstacles." The representative on the other end of the phone, a man named Alex, seemed initially puzzled. "You want a fleet of delivery drones for your house?" he asked, skepticism laced through his voice. "That's right," I replied, attempting to sound authoritative while persuading him of my cause. "You see, my deliveries have been disappearing, and I need these drones to ensure my packages don't fall into the wrong hands, specifically the hands of my HOA president." He chuckled, intrigue clearly piqued. "All right, you've caught my interest. Let's see what we can do." The wheels were in motion. Over the following days, I continued researching, mapping out every nuance of drone capabilities, regulations, and even FAA guidelines. My browser history quickly became a treasure trove of drone delivery efficiency and FAA regulations. I dove headfirst into a world that was foreign and exciting, staring down the equipment specs and legal sheets like a prizefighter preparing for their title match. Finally, the big day arrived. The logistics company delivered my fleet, 5 precision-engineered drones, 3 smaller ones for everyday items and 2 heavy-duty models capable of carrying the larger infrequent deliveries. They arrived on a truck, an intimidating sight, and as the driver hopped out, bewilderment painted her face when she saw me surrounded by curious neighbors. That was the moment I realized my subtle transformation was well underway. My suburban yard was no longer just a patch of grass, but the cradle of innovation, the secret HQ of a rebellious movement that might alter the course of our neighborhood forever. I commandeered my backyard space, setting up a sleek landing pad painted with an oversized H. It quickly morphed into a bustling drone hub. I meticulously installed charging stations, power cables, and safety pads, like a mini-launching site for missions beyond Earth's orbit. Meanwhile, my smartphone became a command center, an extension of my will that monitored flights and programs. This was no longer merely retaliation. It was a melding of technology with a wholesome dose of revenge against the ever-intrusive Marge Thompson. The inaugural flight arrived, and as I stood on the porch, a curious smile creeped onto my face. My test delivery order, naturally, a replacement rubber chicken, was on its way. With a few taps, I watched the drone's icon glide across the tracking map, navigating streets and sidewalks like a masterful pilot. Moments later, I heard the familiar whirring of rotors growing closer. Hovering above the trees, my drone descended gracefully onto the landing pad, depositing my package with a smooth, effortless touch. The glory of success washed over me. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a figure storming toward my house. It was Marge Thompson, her face flushed as she glared at the uproar of innovation birthed from her oppression. "What is this?" she shrieked, stepping closer, confusion and anger battling for dominance on her features as she stood at my now bustling drone hub. "Why, hello there, Marge. Care to join the future?" I responded, with a grin that could rival a cat that got the cream. "You're using drones for deliveries. That's illegal." She spluttered, her voice screeching to an unflattering octane. I shook my head, feigning disappointment. "Actually, Marge, you'll be pleased to hear that after reviewing the regulations, I found there's nothing in the bylaws prohibiting aerial deliveries. Just a lot about unauthorized ground ones." As her face mutated from disbelief to total horror, I savored my moment. She was crumbling. Her reign of beige conformity had just met its match. I could see it in her eyes, the panic rising like a tide. And so began my fight against the drone-hating tyrant, the frustrating reign of Marge Thompson, and my unexpected role as the harbinger of change within the soaring skies of suburbia. As the days turned into weeks, my backyard transformed into a hub of creativity and delivery innovation. Curiosity spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. With each successful delivery, the spirit of rebellion gained momentum. Drones buzzed across the skies, and conversations about dead weight were replaced by excitement over the efficiency that drones brought to our doorstep. But with this enthusiasm came the inevitable backlash from Marge. Rallying what remained of her power, she called an emergency HOA meeting. Her tyranny wouldn't last forever. My aerial crusade was gaining supporters, and Marge's reign was beginning to look an awful lot like a sinking ship. When the day of the emergency meeting arrived, I could sense her desperation. Thousands of HOA complaints on record about an embarrassing loss of control were the weight she now bore. As Marge ranted from her podium about the perils of drones clouding the serene skies, I relaxed in my seat, listening carefully to her hyperbolic rhetoric, the terror of visible packages and the once compelling justification of cluttered porches. I definitely could have bailed out at any moment, but that would have offered her a victory. Plus, I had a trump card I couldn't wait to play. Just as she was about to dive into yet another rant about chaos and disorder in our dear neighborhood, I stood up. "Excuse me, everyone," I called out, seizing the room's attention. "I have an announcement." The room fell silent, all eyes locked onto me. I stepped forward with renewed confidence and shared my revelation. I have been in discussions with a major drone delivery service that's willing to partner with us to bring these aerial deliveries to the entire neighborhood. Gasps rippled through the gathering as whispers swelled, a tide of energy that I could feel electrifying through the air. I presented the benefits: faster delivery times that bypass traffic, reduced road congestion, unencumbered waiting, and most importantly, a complete bypass of Marge's waning governance. Excitement surged like a carnival ride gone wild as I showcased a brochure filled with opportunities. Then, seizing the moment, I demonstrated the efficacy of my operation, carefully delivering a package to a willing volunteer in the far corner of the room. As the drone descended with precision, cheers erupted, drowning out Marge's feeble attempts to regain control and assert her warnings about imaginary perils. Marge, realizing the room was turning against her, made a last-ditch effort to rally support by resorting to an appeal to authority. This is a violation of community standards," she exclaimed, as if the word violation had any shred of significance left in the midst of excitement. Imagine the noise pollution, the privacy dilution. I stood my ground, savoring the golden opportunity. Marge, we've been diligent in reviewing the bylaws, and guess what? They don't cover drone deliveries as unauthorized. I beamed, the momentum solidifying behind my feline craftiness. As I recalled all the joy and community spirit birthed from flying drones, it hit me like a revelation. The power dynamic had shifted entirely. Little did Marge know how far her own stubbornness would be her downfall. A city official monitoring our meeting tuned in, intrigued by the unfolding drama. It blossomed into a wave of interest, with the city seeking partnerships to capitalize on this newfound brilliance, a step into the future of package delivery that elongated the pathway to breaking free from Marge's constricting embrace. With her attempts at instilling fear backfiring spectacularly, Marge found herself trapped in a frenzy of people rallying behind the idea of drone-led deliveries. The meeting crescendoed into madness, giddy laughter whirling through the once confined walls. Marge's face, once filled with a bombastic spirit of superiority, wilted into a mask of defeat as she held her clipboard tightly, attempting to shelter her crumbling authority. Doubt hung palpably in the air, and as the crowd ginned up their interests, it became clear. Marge Thompson's rule over the HOA was doomed to the pages of history, replaced by my revolution of technology-powered deliveries. What was supposed to be an evening of chaos morphed into a wave of positivity, leading to the sunset of Marge's reign and the dawn of something far more audacious, a community brimming with potential, fueled by innovative ideas and a newfound camaraderie. And somewhere deep down, amidst the victory, I couldn't help but think, behind every perfect plan is a little rubber chicken waiting to soar. The final chapter was still unwritten, but we were most certainly flying high into the future.